Welcome back to Bavarian RC. In today's video I'll do a flight review of the Primo S from Robbe Modellsport. The Primo S is a versatile design, covering a wide field of operation, ranging from thermal hunting to slope gliding, from low to high wind conditions. It has a wingspan of around 1.6 meters and an all-up weight of approximately 635 grams. If you haven't seen my time-lapse build video, then check out the link in the video description or in the upper right corner. In the first part of the video, I'll show you the Primo S in flight. In the second part, I'll share all of my settings and give you my conclusions on the flight performance of the Primo S. But now, let's go flying! Fortunately, my usual concerns about the maiden flight were completely unfounded. The Primo S launched like on rails. All it took was a small correction to the elevator trim, and then the Primo showed itself from its best side. Do you know that feeling when everything feels familiar right from the start? I think that describes the maiden flight pretty well. The 2S drivetrain pulls straight up and has no trouble with the low weight of the Primo S. The combination of the dual sky motor and the 7x4-inch folding prop seems to work very efficiently. On my first flight, I was still very cautious and landed after a total of 2 minutes motor runtime, only to find that I still had almost 50% capacity left in my 1000 mAh battery, so there's still a lot more potential. When circling, the Primo remains very stable and doesn't tend to fall into the curve. I was also very impressed by its gliding characteristics. You can cover long distances without losing much altitude. Rolls are very easy to fly. Loops can be performed with ease if you have a little excess speed. In contrast, inverted flight is not really the Primo's thing, but it doesn't need to be. At the beginning of November, you can't really expect strong thermals anymore. But every now and then, I had the impression that the Primo had some thermal support. And the analysis of the GPS locker data later confirmed this. You can also fly the Primo nice and slow, without it starting to feel like a wet sponge. On the other hand, the Primo also picks up speed quickly in a dive. I can easily imagine that it would perform pretty well on a slope in decent wind conditions. After some flights, I was starting to put the Primo S really to the test. Even in fast and tight turns, I couldn't observe any wing flags. This thing is really rock solid. For landing, the ailerons are raised as spoilers and allow for a very controlled landing approach. The Primo initially lifts its nose until it has slowed down a little, then tilts slightly forward. The landing approach can then be controlled well with the elevator and variation of the spoilers. My Primo S build and flights were still in the prototype phase of the design. So I started with some rule of thumb settings and then step by step adjusted them during the following flights. Finally, I'm using the following settings. For the elevator function of the V-tail, I have 8 mm up and 6 mm down. The Primo S is quite sensitive on the elevator controls, so only little throws are needed there. In addition, I use an expo setting of 50% for the elevator. For the rudder, I use 9 mm on both sides. The expo for the rudder is also set to 50%. The ailerons need differentiation. I finally ended up with 15 mm up and 9 mm down. This is a good compromise between smooth curves and still being able to do quite straight rolls. Like for the other controls, I'm using an expo setting of 50% for the ailerons. As shown in my build video, the neutral position of the aileron servo horn should point forward by about 20 degrees. This gives you sufficient downward deflection and a large upward deflection, which is necessary for the spoiler function. Both ailerons can be extended upwards by 30 mm for the spoiler function. Make sure that you still have some travel available for the aileron function when the spoilers are fully extended. When applying the spoilers, the Primo has a light tendency to pitch up. I recommend mixing about 1 mm of down elevator to the spoiler function. During my first flights, I noticed that the Primo S also has a tendency to pitch up when climbing with the motor switched on. Finally, I added a little bit less than 1 mm down elevator mix to the throttle. Climbs are now much easier. Just keep in mind that during horizontal powered flight, the Primo could require a little up elevator to keep it level. Talking about the motor. As said before, the 2S drivetrain is very efficient. I usually get motor run times of around 3 to 3.5 minutes. Despite the motor having no cooling vents, I didn't observe any temperature issues. For the center of gravity, I had my best results at 57 mm behind the leading edge. If you're interested in this nice tool, then check out my video about the Row Spider multi-tool from Robbe. I'll put a link in the video description. Back to the center of gravity. I was able to achieve the CG without any balancing weight, just by arranging the electronics. The ESC is right behind the motor. The receiver is below the battery board. The GPS logger is right next to the ESC. The 1000 mAh 2-cell battery is moved as far as possible forward on the battery board. In my configuration, I ended up with an all-up weight of 635 grams. The only issue I had during my test flights was with the left-hand aileron servo. The servo had a tendency to freeze for a short moment before continuing to work normally. To avoid any risks, I decided to replace the servo with a new one. This is when my method for installing the servo really paid off. In my build video, I showed you the two possible options for the servo installation. Either attached to the wing or attached to the cover. With my solution, I could simply unscrew the cover from the wing to gain full access to the servo. I then opened the tape and could easily remove the faulty servo. With a new tape around the replacement servo, I could glue it back to the inside of the cover. After installing the wire and connecting the control rod, the whole assembly could be reattached with 4 screws. The whole repair was done in a few minutes and my servo issues are now gone. Just another tip: always check the position of the prop O-ring after landing. During the sliding on the ground, sometimes the O-ring was pushed out of its position and then got stuck between spinner and fuselage. But that's easy to fix. Just push it back into its position and you're good to go. If you liked my onboard video footage and also want to attach an action camera like the Insta360 Go 2, then check out my self-designed camera mounts. For the center mount, I'm using a 3D printed support and a 1/4-inch screw mount from Insta360. The center mount is attached using the M4 wing attachment screws. The other camera mount is inserted between the center and the outer wing panel. Basically, it's a 3D printed rib with a tab on top. For this one, I'm using the Go 2 Easy Clip mount and a bit of tape. balance weight is attached with 2 zip ties to the tab on the underside of the rib. As a conclusion to my test, I must say that the Primo S could easily become my favorite anytime, anywhere glider. With its well-balanced flight characteristics, the Primo S aims at advanced beginners up to experts looking for an easy-to-handle and compact glider. Robbe will introduce the Primo S only in an ARF version. A kit version could come later, but that's not decided yet. According to last information from Robbe, the Primo S should be available in Q1 2026 and can already be pre-ordered now. I'll put a link to the Robbe website in the description below. I hope you liked this video. If yes, please leave a like, and if you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching Bavarian RC.